Okay, so back to affective attachment. Affective, right? We're talking about affect, or the way that we might feel, right? This is one of the reasons, and I'll get to this in a second, why I kind of, sort of want to curb anytime we want to say, well, I feel like ... instead of I think that ... right? So this is something that's often kind of like linked with emotion, right? So emotion, like affective attachment, another way to understand this is like an emotional attachment. And so what is Gillen talking about? That viewers tend to kind of produce or they tend to kind of have and create affective or emotional attachment to whom? To actors and characters, right? And what does Netflix or Comcast want to do with that? They take those, another way to put this is just like thinking in terms of like an emotional bond, right? Or a connection, right? They want to capitalize on it. They want to exploit it, right? Because, you're emotionally, there's like this notion that you're susceptible, right? So let's say I watch Parks and Recreation, and I gain an emotional attachment to Chris Pratt, right? And the Andy, the Dower character, right? That might lead me, because that might lead me to Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. Might lead me to Guardians of the Galaxy. That might then lead me to Guardians of the Galaxy 2. That might then lead me to an emotional attachment to the director, to James Gunn, and that might lead me to Slither. Now, in the case that this is all on the same platform, right, that means I'm clocking in more hours on whatever that platform is, right, which means more revenue, right, and more, again, maybe even attachment to the platform itself, right, good for them, right. If I go to Jurassic Park, maybe I get an attachment to Bryce Dallas Howard, and then, that takes me to Spider-Man, and that still keeps me within the system. But that's basically what they want, right? Is they want to kind of, for us to sort of create these bonds, right? And in the case of Disney, they're trying to point out that becomes like a lifelong bond. And it's all sort of dependent on the sort of emotional charge. Because there's a way that, affect and emotion becomes so sacred, right? That it's something that we're so kind of, it's so direct and intimate and immediate that we're not, we don't like being kind of critical of it. We do actually, I think, in some ways. But it is, and so just, again, kind of, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we shouldn't feel the way that we feel, but it shouldn't be the only navigatory or navigational tool that we have in understanding the world, that everything should be just about feeling, right? No, some of it needs to be about thinking, and also thinking about, the way I feel. So, something like if we think about fear, right? People are scared right now. One of those iterations of fear is that we're fearful of other people, right? And we are fearful of specific people, right? We know that this is happening in the world right now. And so instead of just indulging that I feel scared, I feel angry against that person, no, there's a moment and a need to kind of be like, why do I feel that way? That is the critical dimension, right? That's what I've been selling this entire sort of semester. Now, continuing on 185, there's a really important passage that she brings up about like the sort of switch that happens historically with the switch to transmedia. This is that first full paragraph, about five or six lines from the bottom. If the classic network deal is for a desirable primetime lineup to deliver audiences to advertisers, then desirable content clusters deliver subscribers to OTT and on-demand providers. So, what that means, right? A primetime lineup. So, if we think about NBC in its heyday, think about like something like Seinfeld. You watch Seinfeld, maybe you'll stick around, or it's the lead-in, right? I think it's actually Mad About You comes first, and maybe you'll watch that, but you'll watch it because you want to watch Seinfeld. And maybe you'll stick around. I don't think they were on the same block, but let's say like Friends, like a rerun of Friends. They're having you stick around not just because, they want you to be happy and laugh, but because what does the line that she says, or that she uses, that Gillen uses, NBC is taking this cluster of audiences and delivering to them advertisers. And I want you to think about that line. What NBC is looking to do is deliver audiences. And to whom? To advertisers. That's what they're looking to do. They're not there to make you happy. They're there because they get revenue from advertisers who are paying to have access to the audiences. It's no different from people buying data. And that's what she's saying, is that the change has been, right, that desirable content clusters is not here to provide you with hours of enjoyment and content, but rather to take you here and then deliver you to the OTT and on-demand providers. To whom? Comcast, right? Why do I have pricey, fast internet? Streaming and gaming, right? And so who benefits from that? Me, of course, my friends, but ultimately the provider, right? The provider benefits, right? Same with cell phone providers, right? We know this, but again, I just wanted to kind of emphasize this one last time, how crucial this is. We have the relationship between, let's say, networks, audiences, and advertisers, or OTT and on-demand providers. The relationship is that they deliver them to them. That is what we are. They deliver us, right? That's the claim that Gillen is making here, right? Okay. So I've already kind of given you an example of how personnel, so the people, the actors, and even the filmmakers, are kind of at the center of the content clusters from 185 to 191, right? She points out how, gives very concrete examples using someone like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Nick Offerman, Aziz Ansari, right? And Aziz Ansari is a great example, not only because it gets us between NBC to Netflix explicitly in original content, but of course also because it brings up all the kind of issues of gender and the whole conversation about Me Too as well, and how these things are all kind of loosely related. But also it serves as a bridge between television and film, right? And especially in terms of Netflix, how the personnel make those jumps and also carry over. And Chris Pratt, I think, is a really good example, right? Because you have Parks, which is NBC, right? Guardians, which is Marvel, and Jurassic Park, which is Universal, right? So it's going across kind of providers and conglomerates as well. So it's going between NBC, Universal, but also ABC, Disney, but ultimately, initially all on Netflix, right? Okay, so we're going to move on to Walt Disney.